All right, I have to share my screen for that to happen. Okay, so we have a lot to cover today. We're going to be basically mashing 2 weeks worth of stuff together, but I can do it. So we're going to talk today about both the degree planning and then how to actually register. So they do actually, one goes really nicely into the other, but it is a lot today. If I run over, don't feel like you have to stay, but I am going to just continue with the presentation until it's done, until I cover everything. So if you have to leave at right at 2:50 and I'm not done yet, that or 1:50, that's okay. I'm recording this right now and you can go back and watch the last few minutes. But we're going to talk about registration, how to plan your program of study, basically your degree, your major at SE4. We'll look at what classes you can take or should take, what to consider when you're choosing your classes, which is going to be something that you'll come back to every semester. We'll actually look at the service center, the tools there for planning, how to actually like identify specific class times and how you can see that and know that, and then getting ready basically for registration opening on Monday. It actually opens Sunday night at midnight, which I'll talk about as we go. And then how to actually confirm that you are fully and officially registered. So that's super important because there's some opportunity to make mistakes and not be officially registered, but think that you are. So I'll point that out as we get there. Okay, so registration opens Monday. Every semester it'll open on Monday, but it's actually Sunday night at midnight. So it's like at 12 o'clock midnight. So people stay up. Sometimes people will stay up and wait up to do that at midnight. I think we've been pushing so many people to do it, like if you wanted to stay up, but I'm of two minds about it. I know that I have had students that stay up until midnight, and then there's so many people in there at midnight that the website crashes, the service center like crashes. People have gotten kicked out of, like, it'll just like push you out and they have a hard time getting back in. Basically it's very flooded right at midnight and for probably about an hour. But I have heard of students going in at like 12:30 and having no problem whatsoever. I think you would be totally fine to wait and do it in the morning, but do it before you go to school. And that would be totally like fine. You wouldn't have to stay up all night and or set an alarm or anything to wake up in the middle of the night. I have never, I think maybe one time I saw a class fill up before somebody got up and did it at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's very rare. And the stuff that you guys are all going to be taking is still very introductory. So there's not going to be a ton of those sections will fill up because there's a lot of options for those. So we'll talk more about that, but that's just kind of words of wisdom, words of advice. It's, if you're a night owl and you want to do it, that's totally fine. Just be prepared that it may kick you out. It's not a problem. It's just, you have to be patient, basically. Okay, so how to actually choose your classes. So we're going to look specifically at degrees and how to kind of figure out, okay, what does it mean? But basically each semester, as you're choosing your classes, you want to think about, what do you need for your degree first and foremost? Do you qualify for the course? So prerequisites. And I'll point out how you can find that out. Is it a prereq for a class that you might need later? So I'll point out some common ones that people would need to get started on in order to do a later class. Will it transfer to other schools? If you happen to know right now where you want to transfer to and what you want to major in, we can look and find out specifically what you can take at SE4 that will transfer to that 4-year school. So if you know that, or whenever you know that, that's when you should let me know and we can set up a meeting and we can go through that. If you don't know it, it's okay. Like, I'll kind of show you how you can just sort of do some basics for the 2 main transfer degrees that just kind of keep all of your options open. Do you need a course for high school graduation requirements? I'll get into this in a little bit, but I am a proponent of not using college classes for high school requirements for a multitude of reasons that I'll explain when we get to that slide. And does it fit your schedule? There's actually guidelines in place where you can only take classes at a certain time, basically 1 o'clock or later in 11th grade, next year as a 12th grader, it's 12 o'clock or later. So we'll get into that. And then just, does a course sound interesting to you? Especially if you're undecided, taking stuff that just sounds interesting is my best recommendation to kind of help you figure it out, basically. Okay, so the actual associate degrees have certain requirements. So each degree is going to have course requirements, or like groups of courses that you have to choose from. But then there's these kinds of things are actually like every degree you have to have these specific requirements completed. So the course requirements, which we'll get into in more detail, and then each degree requires a minimum of 60 to 62 credits. I think there's actually one or two that's even more than that. And you have to have a GPA of a 2.0 or above. And then they say to complete a minimum of 18 credits at SE4. All of it will be here at SE4. That's more of a requirement if like somebody was transferring here from Macomb or something like that. So for transferability, I'll be sending all of these websites that we're looking at to you. This is something that if you wanted to start exploring it, you are welcome to, but I'm not going to get into it in a lot of detail right now, just since we have so much stuff to cover. But this might be something I'll spend more time on in another class. Looking at how things transfer is really important. And you can do it on your own. The stuff is out there on the internet, which is wonderful, but I would more, it's fine if you want to do the research, and I do encourage you to do that research, but you should also be double checking it with one of us in the office at the Blue Water Middle College staff, as well as an SE4 advisor. Excuse me, sorry. And that can be over the course of your time here. So we recommend seeing an SE4 advisor like once a year, probably once a semester, even better, but once a year at least, just to kind of make sure that I know I've said it before, but I help you make your plan. We're teaching you how to make your plan right now. You double check it with me or somebody in the middle college staff office, and then triple check it with SE4 advisors. And then we're going to quadruple check it later on with the advisors at the schools that you want to transfer to. And that was there. Prerequisites, I will point out when we get into the actual service center, but prerequisites are classes you have to take or criteria you have to meet before you can register for another class. So a lot of them, actually, like English 101 is an example. You have to take English 101 before you can take English 102. And there's actually a prerequisite to get into English 101, which is that you have to place into English 101 with the placement test, which can either be the AccuPlacer, which we'll talk about, or the SAT. You can use your scores for that, which you will be taking in the spring. Bio 271 is a prerequisite that you have to take before Bio 272. Most of the time, the prerequisites is that you just have to pass it in order to take the next class. So you could have a D- or higher. As long as you pass it and you get the credit in English 101, you can then take English 102. And so if you're in that window where your grade is between like lower than a C, but higher than an E, so a D- to a C- basically, I recommend just keep going depending on the class. Sometimes you may have gotten that grade because you don't really understand the class. And so maybe then it might make more sense to retake that class. But sometimes they are fairly unrelated and just continuing on makes sense. Bio 271 is an example where you have to actually have a C or higher in that class before you take Bio 272. So some of them do have grade prerequisites, but very few. Okay, we will actually pop over and do that. So the portal pages were giving me some trouble. Excuse me, I'm sorry for that. So I wanted to get the actual full list, but this is not working, which is my normal way of going to the degrees. So we will just find it another way. Okay, so this is the full list of all the degree programs, which we will get into in a second. But then there's also the course catalog. We access this way. Oh, good, this is working now. Okay, so excuse me, I'm so sorry. So we are going to get further into this, but I just wanted to point out a few things. So this course catalog link I will send you. This is where you can search by all of the subjects. So if you just thought, oh, anthropology, that sounds interesting. How many? There's just the one class. Okay, well, and you can read the description of the course. You see it's ANT 171, Introduction to Anthropology. 3 is, that's how many credits that it is. So that's how many credits you get towards that total of 60. A description of the course. This view available sections is where you can see the actual class times. So you can see they have the current fall semester grades here, or fall semester class sections here. And then if you scroll down, you can see what is going to be offered in the winter semester. So this is where you're going to search your classes and figure out like what you're going to take in the actual times and everything. So just to point out, basically when registration opens, you'll see there's this like 725-0, and you can click this little I or hover over there and it'll tell you. So basically it's not available obviously to schedule now since we're already in the semester, but as you're registering for winter semester, you'll see this. So when you see something that's 0, that means that class is full. So there's 0 seats available out of 20 seats capacity. So that's how many people are in that class. And then if there is a wait list, you'll see how many people are on it ahead of you. So let's say that said 1, that means 1 person's in front of you on the wait list. It would probably say 0, 25, 1. And so if you did want to put yourself on the wait list, you would just be the second person on there. I don't recommend doing the wait list. I would just keep checking back. At some point before the semester starts, I think it's usually like 2 weeks before the semester starts, they actually just clear out the wait list completely. And I'm not sure that it's actually even really communicated at all. So I would just find a different class section, at least have a backup plan. So you can take 2 classes in the winter. So if one of them is a class that is waitlisted, then I would still schedule a different second class. And then you can always change it later if you're able to get into that class. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But then this tells you the days and times. So this is Monday, Wednesday, 2 to 3:15, the full semester, August 22nd to December 16th, gives you the location and the instructor. So down below, we can see basically full semester for winter semester is January 9th to May 5th. This is not a good example, but some classes will have like a shortened time frame. Let me see one that would have that. Business is a good example, where a lot of these classes in the business program are just like half the semester. So this is a good example. So this goes from January 9th to March 3rd. So it's really important that you know that going into the semester, because you might think you're halfway done with your class and be done. So that's really important to know that. So you really need, it'll say the dates here and it'll say the dates on the times as well. I'm going to get back and we'll get a little bit more into the searching of everything in a second. So the prerequisites, oh, that was what we left over for, and I didn't show you that. Okay, so let me find one of the classes that has that. Jeez Louise. Okay. Let's see. Some of the business classes do. So you can see business math, business 158, business math, 4 credits. The prerequisite is that you have to have math 75 completed or place in the section above that, which we'll look at the math pathway in a second. Some of these later business classes, business 225 requires that you have taken English 101 first. Business 250 requires you to take business 180 first. So we'll kind of look at that when we look at some of the degrees and how to plan that out. Okay. So when you are choosing, high school graduation requirements can be a factor. I do not recommend it. I just don't. We've had 4.0 plus GPA students end up being off or behind or having to withdraw from a class, or something happens and now you need this college class in order to graduate from high school, and they're scrambling. Every single year it happens. Every single year there's somebody in tears or not marching in graduation. Because keep in mind, your high schools are going to let you participate in graduation stuff at the end of 12th grade, but you have to have all of those requirements done just like everybody else does. So the only time that there's really a reason for it is if you're a tech student. Basically, next year, you're not going to be at the high school at all. You're just going to be going to tech and middle college. So that isn't a case where, yes, you are going to have to take all of your remaining high school credits with college classes. And you should start that next semester because typically you have a few left. If you have electives like art, band, or you want to take Spanish 4 or whatever, something that you're really invested in taking, that is a good reason to take high school or college classes for high school requirements. But sometimes we have had students say going into their senior year, well, I'm all done. I don't have any requirements left. Can I just not go to high school? And that's not how it works. You will still take 4 high school classes this year and 3 next year. When you are applying to 4-year schools, they're going to look at both. They're going to look at what you took at the high school and the college. So if they see you're taking all of your core classes at the college and just kind of goofing off at the high school, that's not going to look good, right? So I've also had students tell me at this point, well, I'm not going on to a 4-year school, or I don't think it matters, or whatever the case. You might think that right now, and a lot can change in the next year and a half, and people change their mind, and you may. So plan accordingly, and keep that flexibility for yourself to be able to change your mind later if you want to. Okay, I think I've appropriately scared you for this. So let me know if you think you have a good reason to take high school requirements at the college, and I'll help you figure out, is that right? It might be a good reason, and it might be the right way to go. The other thing too, each high school kind of has their own requirements or parameters on what and how things count. So Port Huron High, Port Huron Northern, every class you take at the college just gives you a half credit at the high school. Everyone else, one college class gives you a full credit at the college or at the high school. So and then there's a lot of different parameters on like what classes can count for each requirement. So if you think you're going to do that, let me know and we'll talk about it. The other flip side of that, which I know we have talked about in orientation, even our first meeting together, I'll probably talk about it every single time we're going to talk about registration, reminding you that the state requires all students to take a math class in their final year. That is your 13th year. Your advisor or your counselors, when we're talking in this spring, when you're planning for 12th grade, they're going to refer to it as senior math, because for everybody that didn't leave their home high school, that's true. Senior year is your last year. But for all middle college students across the state, not just ours, every middle college student has to take a math class in their final year, which is 13th year. I recommend continue taking your 4 credits or taking whatever math you're going to take at the high school. And if you want to take the least amount of math possible, save your math requirement for your degree to take in your 13th year. And I'll kind of show you how to do that. If you're going into something math related, just keep going. I don't recommend taking time off from math. I used to be a math teacher, so I am very biased against taking time off from math because it's hard to pick it up and refresh your memory after you've taken a break, basically. So we'll talk more about that and when we're looking at the degrees. And then the enjoyment or interest, just look through that course catalog and try some things out. Good ones that are interesting for everyone, even if you're not thinking about going into it. Business 150 is the intro to business. CJ 101 is intro to criminal justice. GD 140 is intro to graphic arts or graphic design. Those are all like really good classes that if you have no idea what you want to do, you might want to change towards that field. We hear a lot of times people take psychology and then they want to go kind of in that path. So that's wonderful. Take whatever sounds interesting, especially if you have no idea what you want to do. You do have room for electives. in the 2 main transfer degrees. And so you have room to do fun stuff. But I will point out. Okay, so we're going to create an updated program of study, and we're going to look at the degrees. I'm going to just keep going through here. Or actually, we'll bounce over to there. I'm doing okay on time. Okay, so the program of study is basically a worksheet, and I'm going to send you all this stuff. But this is a worksheet that helps you plan out your whole time with us. So your 3 years with the middle college, 6 semesters is what you have to work with, right? And it is possible, and actually with a little bit of wiggle room, to finish a degree in these 3 years. There's usually, if somebody is doing kind of one of the general transfer degrees, it's possible even to withdraw or fail one class and still stay on track. So if things are not going well for you, you can kind of know that. It just takes a little bit more deliberate planning later on. So if you ever, whether it's this semester or later, end up in that boat where things aren't going well and you know that you need to withdraw, it's okay. We will figure it out, and I'll help you plan it out. But you can kind of see each semester you're going to enter your stuff. And basically this is part of the homework that I want you guys to do, is to fill in whatever class you're in right now. And you can actually do this electronically too, and that's totally fine. So you would say, I'm in Political Science 101, PS 101, and that is a 3-credit class. Unfortunately, just because I'm teaching it here, seminar is 0 credits. That's not a college class that we're in right now, but it's hopefully very beneficial. So you're getting just the credits from your 1 class here. So you would, this semester, you're getting 3 credits for the semester, and that will give you a total of 3. So when you have an idea of what you want to take, which I will point out kind of some ideas, let's say you're going to take psychology 180 and art 120. So that's intro to psychology. And this is art appreciation, which is a popular one that people do for a requirement, a humanities requirement that I'll show you in a second. So that's a 4-credit and a 3-credit. So you'll have 7 credits for the winter, and that'll bring you to a total of 10. Okay, so you can kind of see how you're going to plan stuff out. In the end, for most of the degrees, you're trying to get to a total of 60. So you can kind of work backwards and see, you know, how to get there. If you, down below, we have an example here. And the goal that I would like everybody to kind of have in mind is to get to a total of 30 credits by the end of 12th grade, because then that leaves you with just needing 15 credits each semester your 13th year, which is a very reasonable, normal, that's like the standard course load, basically. We can pay for up to 17 credits in your 13th year. So that also leaves you some wiggle room if you end up failing or withdrawing from a class. So shooting to have 30 done is very reasonable. And it actually, a lot of people will end up with much more than this. Like you could end up with more. This is basically, you can get to 30 by taking all 3-credit classes this year and just sprinkling in a couple of 4-credit classes next year in 12th grade. So it's very doable, and not like a 4-credit class. Some of you might be in right now. Psychology is one. The histories usually are 4 credits. They're not really that much harder than a 3-credit. It's just basically the amount of time that you're there each week, right? So yeah, just something to keep in mind. So this is just kind of an example of the blank. I want to show you what one looks like when it is completed. I thought that I had it open. Yes. So this is an example here to kind of help plan it out. So what I would like you to get to for sure is put in what you've done, what you're doing right now, and then what you plan to do for winter semester. And then ideally kind of start to map out the rest. Okay. So you can see these things mean nothing to you probably right now because we have to look at the degrees, but this just to kind of show you like it map out as much as you can to get your 60 credits done and kind of fill your requirements in. I think basically that brings us to talking about and actually looking at the degrees. So graduation worksheets, degree worksheets, degree requirements. There's a lot of ways we talk about this. The two main ones are the Associate of, I don't know how to zoom out. I'm not seeing that. Sorry. So the Associate of Arts is what I would recommend if you are undecided. This is the way to go. If you are going into most fields, you will go into the associate degree in arts. The associate in science is pretty specific to people that are going into something science related. If you are going into pretty much anything medical, including nursing, if you are pre-vet, pre-physical therapy, pre-dentistry, all of that, basically medical stuff starts with science. You can see that these are structured very similarly. And again, I'll send you this, and I wish that I could zoom out. I don't know why. It's probably right in front of my face and I'm not seeing it, but each degree requires 2 classes from the social science group. So that doesn't mean you have to take this whole list. You're just taking 2 from this group. And then your grade has to be a C or better, and it has to be from more than one subject area. So you wouldn't be able to take 2 psychology classes and complete that group. Doesn't mean you can't take 2 psychology classes, but only one is going to complete one of these 2 courses, if that makes sense. So you would have to take a psychology and political science or sociology and history, like 2 different subjects. You can see here that under the social science, 149, 150, 175, and 190 are all that work for the history within the social science group. Other histories, 101 and 102, world history, count towards this second group, humanities. Okay. So 2 social science, 2 humanities, 2 sciences, and math and English 101 and 102 are requirements for something called the Michigan Transfer Agreement. Someone just asked, and this is a great question for everyone, do classes I took in dual enrollment count? I took CJ 101 and History 150 last year. Yes, that counts. Anything that you took at SC4, like if you did dual enrollment, or sometimes people will take a summer class, which we can't pay for classes over the summer, but if you get behind, that's a decent option. You have to pay for it yourself, but it can kind of help catch you back up. Or sometimes people want to get ahead, or just want to get a little bit ahead to lighten their load 13th year. So instead of having to take maybe 15 credits, maybe now you can take 12 each semester. It's not necessary though. You can absolutely finish the degree in your 6 semesters. But it's just an option, just throwing it out there. Basically, all to say that whatever classes you take at SC4, whether it's through us, through dual enrollment, previously, over the summer, whatever the case, it is building your SC4 transcript. And that's yours basically to use as you see fit. I hope that answered the question. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So those fields, the social science, humanities, science, math, and English count towards the Michigan Transfer Agreement, which I will get to in one second. But we have another question talking about AP classes. So I am going to touch on that. I actually have a worksheet or like a sheet that shows what counts for what. But specifically, they're asking about AP language counting for English 101, and that is correct. So you could mark it right here, like just put a little note here that says AP. If you're in it right now, the way I'll say like in progress, or I might say AP. When I'm filling these in, let's see if I can edit while we're in here. Sorry, I'm not great with PDFs and editing. Okay, so you can kind of see. So when I meet with people, I'll kind of help you fill these in. So let's say right now you are in political science. So you're going to have 3 credits. And then over here, I type PS 101, or I would write it, obviously, if we're together. So that's how I kind of start to market, right? As you get, let's say maybe in the winter, you're going to take sociology. So I'll actually just mark it right there and say in winter of 23, we're going to do sociology for the second one. Over here, if you were taking, let's say you're in AP language right now, I would just write AP and just kind of, so you note to yourself how you're going to be completing this stuff, right? If you are in an AP class right now, you won't be able to register for the next thing because you don't get that credit until you take the test and get a 3 or higher. So for AP classes, you need a 3 or higher on the test in order to get credit at SE4, but a lot of the 4-year schools require a 4 or higher. So I never want anybody to take that as I shouldn't take the AP test. I really recommend them. If you have financial need, there's often ways to get the fees waived, I think, or we can work with you. We can help you figure it out, basically. So if you are in an AP class and you've done the work, I would take the test. If you get a 3, we can figure out the option from there. So literally this actually happened to me where I took world history, or did I take US history? US history counts as history 149 and 150. I got the credit because I got a 3. So I got the credit at SE4 and thought it was done. Did not realize that it didn't transfer to Michigan State until basically going into my final semester, meeting with an advisor, they pointed it out, and I had to take basically a freshman level class as a 5th year college student because I changed my major so much. I was there a little bit longer. So that can be something that I will help you avoid just because it happened to me personally, but that's just something to kind of keep in mind. But I have heard from different teachers at the high schools before that were like, stop telling them that it doesn't transfer if they have a 3, but you need to know it. It's worth you knowing. The point is that we can work around it if you don't get that 4 or higher. It's just good to know that up front so we can work with you on it. Let me just check while I have a little break here. So AP Lit, this is a very common question that does not count for English 101. AP Literature counts towards this literature group. So it actually gives you general credit, and it just says AP, or it says like ENG-LIT. So instead of it being ENG 202, it would just say that, but you do get the credit for a literature class towards this humanities group. So that's the only one that's like that. You know, while we're here, let's just look at the AP course. Sorry, I was going to do this a little later, but so I'll be sending this. This is the list of everything that all the AP stuff that SE4 gives credit for. So obviously you can see there's things on here probably that your high school doesn't offer. But sometimes they will let you do, there's like online classes that you could do for AP classes that aren't offered at your high school. So if you're interested in something like that, talk to your counselor. We're not able to do that for you or set that up for you, but that's something that you would have to work with your counselor on. So you can see basically English language. So AP language gives you English 101. AP literature gives you English lit credit. So these classes like French, German, Spanish down below, and then the history classes actually give you 2 classes. So those are good ones to do. But I know a lot of people took AP US history and didn't get credit, you know, that maybe you didn't get a 3 or higher. A lot of the schools are pushing that up earlier and doing that freshman year. And so it's kind of meant to just give you the experience instead of, you know, the pass rate is actually very low for US history anyway. And in particular, when you're taking it that young, but some lucky people or hard workers or whatever, you probably got the 2 classes for that. So I'll be sending this list to you along with all this stuff together. So hopefully that answered the questions about AP. So just in general, now I have to zoom out. So I wanted to just point out, and I'll zoom back in to get in the detail, but this is the associate degree in science. This is the associate degree in arts. They are structured the same in that they both require 2 social science, 2 humanities, 2 science, and math and English. Okay, so they're pretty much exactly the same in that sense. The social science, humanities, science, English 101 and 102 are exactly the same between the two. The difference is in the math and in the additional course requirements. So those basics, social science, humanities, science, math, English, are meant to, and it's designed to create or to complete the Michigan Transfer Agreement. So what the Michigan Transfer Agreement is basically what the point of community colleges is, oh my gosh, I'm really running over time-wise. So we may have to, I am going to go long, just looked at the time. I will be talking about registration. So I'm sorry if anybody has to go, that is okay. I mean, you're supposed to be here another 10 minutes or so, but to talk about registration is going to take me a little bit longer. I'm sorry about that. So those are the requirements for the Michigan Transfer Agreement. Basically, all schools in Michigan have said, if you complete this list, we're going to consider your general education requirements to be done. So oftentimes the classes that you take for that like when you transfer to a 4-year school, your classes transfer individually. They don't care that you have an associate degree. And that doesn't mean that just they'll check off the first 2 years is done, but these requirements check off the general education requirements. So once in a while, some schools might require language as part of their general education requirements, and you wouldn't have to take that by having done the MTA. But most of the time your classes do transfer individually and complete it that way too, but this is just kind of another guarantee for that. So it is helpful to complete this. And most of the time you're close enough anyway, because you are doing one of these 2 transfer degrees. So the arts and the science are the basics if you are thinking about going to a 4-year school after SE4. So that's where you would look at these requirements and plan out your degree, basically. The additional course requirements are the other part that's different. For the science, they just require 2 additional courses from this group below. For the arts, they require 4, and then 2 of those have to be 200 level classes. So there's a lot of flexibility in the arts and science. The other thing to consider is, the other degrees that you can pursue, which I thought that I was on that page. So the degrees are, sorry, I had that program list up, I thought, but I guess not. So this is the full list of all of the programs, which I will email to you as well. So this shows everything. So the arts and the science are the 2 that are mostly used for transferring to a 4-year school. There is one other transfer degree, which is the business transfer. So associate degree intended for transfer students. So this one, if that's something, I think there's quite a few of you actually that are thinking about doing that, or there's a handful. So when you click on these, so aside, basically everything other than the arts and science have a more specific list of courses, and you would access it at this page, and none of the course catalogs are working. Oh my goodness. I don't know if this is my internet or what the deal is, but other stuff is working. So hopefully you'll be able to see that from home, but I also have another way to show you, because I've saved some of these in the degree. So these are old, but it's still applicable. But this is what it would look like when you got to the course catalog. So you can see the specific courses that it requires. So this is a very specific list, and then there's some room for electives. Some other people are looking at criminal justice, which is a very specific list with room for electives, but they actually have that it has to be CJ electives. So these, you have room for 15 credits of electives, so basically like 5 classes, but it has to be from this list of the criminal justice electives. So when you're doing an applied degree, it takes a little bit more planning. You really have to map things out. And I would recommend that if you're doing anything other than the arts and science, it probably makes sense to talk to one of us ahead of time or at some point. It doesn't have to be before registration opens next week. Basically, if you are doing criminal justice, let's say right now you're in CJ 101, I would just choose 2 more from this first semester. So psychology, sociology, I wouldn't maybe jump into English just yet. I would wait and do that next year or in your 13th year. So basically just choose 2 classes from the full list. So that's really kind of giving not a lot of detail on the applied degrees, but that would be more, it's just so specific that you really kind of have to like look at it yourself and map that out. While I'm looking at the degrees, so the Associate of Science, I want to point out, often people are doing the Associate of Science with the goal of doing a pre-health careers plan, or this is pre-engineering. This is the way to go for this too. The engineering people are going to be taking all the math that SC4 offers, right? So whenever you take the AccuPlacer and place into math, that's where you're starting, but you're going to do pretty much all of it. So that's why the additional higher level math counts for these additional courses. Pre-med, pre-health careers, you're going to be taking biology and chemistry. You're going to take all 4 of these: chemistry, 111, 112, 215, 216, and you need 1 before the next. So you have to do 111 before 112. You have to do 112 before 215, right? So that's 4 semesters right off the bat that, you know, like basically that means next fall, you need to be starting the chem progression, right? So you're going to do chem 111, chem 112, 215, 216, right? A lot of these classes too are fall only, winter only, fall only, winter only. So that's kind of just exactly how you have to do it. The physics are the same, where 221 is just in the fall, 222 is just in the winter. So if you're looking at the science, that's something that you need to pay attention to. On the arts degree, there's a lot of flexibility in the additional courses, but you just have to keep in mind that you need 2 of those to be the 200 level stuff. So I think that's kind of the basics on the planning of it all. I'll send you all of this stuff. If you are thinking about nursing, I'm going to send you the packet, but basically there's just a list of classes that you take in order. What else did I need to show you from those? I think that is it. So on to actually doing the registration. So when you sign in to the portal, you can then click the Service Center link and it will bring you right to it, or I will send you this link that you can just get directly to it. So you're entering your username and the same password as your portal. And this is the Service Center. So it's going to look like this, but there's going to be a few things that are slightly different. You will not have employee or tax information, or down at the bottom, I have advising, but the rest are going to look pretty much the same. Financial aid, student finance, those are not really applicable to you right now since you don't have to pay for this, right? You're in the middle of college, we're paying, but that's where you would find that stuff if you did take a summer class or if you continue on at SC4 after you're done with the middle college. Student planning is where we're going to do all of the scheduling. So we'll get to that in a second. Grades, I think that I pointed this out, but this is where you can see your early alert grades. So you can see my last semester here before you guys were born. So the midterms are where your early alert grades were, and then you'll see your final grades there. You can see that I struggled with anatomy and physiology. So that is all there. This home button always brings you back to these categories. You can get your transcript from here as well. But basically where we're going to be working is under student planning. So if you do all of your research outside of here and you just know, I want to take political science 101 and art 120, you can just search right in there and it'll bring you to that specific class. You can search just in the course catalog. So you could go to academics up here and just hit course catalog. This brings us to that search function. So if you know for sure your two classes, like let's say I'm going to do psychology 180 and I'm going to do music 106. So you've done your research and figured those are your two classes. You can just put those right in and just search those specific classes. There's multiple ways to search basically. Once you have decided your two classes or you put them in, you can then click on the button to see what are your options, right? So this is just showing winter. You can see they're basically all online. So sections that are in the 60s are always online classes, but it also says it here. It gives you the dates. All of these are full semester and it gives you the instructors over here. Let's say you're like, I've heard of fisheries awesome, which is true. You can say, that's the section I want to take. I'm going to add to my schedule. It pops up. It gives you a little bit more detail here if you want to read through that. And I recommend it and hit add section. Okay. So it's basically put on your schedule. That's not officially registered. It's just on your schedule. And we'll look at that in a second of how to actually make it official. And then for your other class, psychology, we go here and see, you know what? I can't take classes before 1 o'clock, but I do want to take an in-person class. This is a full semester with Ken Forster, who's great. Perfect. I'm going to click add section and that's on my plan now too. Now this, it's always going to pop you up here and give you a message. Green is good. Everything else is bad. I just clicked on that, but that's saying it's already in another semester, but because I took it already. So that's not super helpful. But some messages are going to give you like, you don't have the prerequisites or stuff like that. Let me see. I was trying to think of something that I don't have the prerequisites for so that you can see that pop up. So Econ 222, why isn't it popping up? I did not take that. So if I try to add this to my plan, and we have both semesters here, so I need to find a winter. I'm going to add it to my schedule and click add section. Oh, well, it did let me plan it. But it wouldn't let me register it later on because I don't have the prerequisites. So that's not going to give you that error message just yet. So once you have your stuff all added to your plan, you go to student planning, go to plan and schedule. And I can see this is my fall. It's always going to bring you to the current semester. So you have to click forward, the forward button to get to winter. And I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want the econ. Like I have 3 classes planned here and I know I can only take 2, right? So I'm going to remove that. I have my 2, one's in person, one's online. Love the instructors. I've heard great things about both. Awesome. You can see it on your plan here. Like this is helpful to have here so you can see the times. When you get further in and you're taking more than your 2 classes, this is helpful to be able to like put everything here. So you can see basically all the sections. That was not a good example because those were all online. So it was just listing them down below. But if we do that with the psychology, you can see that it's like a faded or a lighter version of it, but you can see it all on the calendar, which is helpful, especially when you get into your 13th year and you have to make sure everything works, right? That obviously the times can't overlap. So you're feeling good. That's what I wanted to do. Up here, when registration opens, there will be a button that says register all or something like that. And then there'll be a button for each class that says register. So you can register them individually. I would recommend just hitting register all, but make sure you pop up here and that you don't have a message like some kind of error. When that registration works, this yellow is this beigey yellow is going to turn green. And this is going to say registered, but not yet started instead of it saying planned, right? So that's how you know that it worked. yeah, so that's that. That's how you register. Really, that's it. So that's a way to check that it worked. Another way is to click print. And this is going to bring up your full schedule. And this is helpful for knowing, this is a helpful thing actually to print out when it is official. But here's where you can see I'm only planned for 7 credits. I'm not actually enrolled. Planned. And it's yellow, green. This will turn green and say registered but not yet started. And this will say enrolled 7 credits. So that's another way to check that. So it's really, really important that you confirm that it is done. There's multiple ways to do that. And if all else fails, email me and I can say, yep, you're good. It looks great, right? If you want that reassurance, I'm happy to do that next week. But that's it. That's the basics. There's a lot more exploring you can do in here, and you're welcome to do that. But basically under student planning, you can use a few different options. This is also where you can see your transcript eventually. That's kind of all you'll need this for right now. So that'll get you started. I only ran 4 minutes over. Hopefully you all are still with me to see that that was not hard or not that bad. I'm almost done. I just want to hit a few more slides. Basically, we did all of this. So this is the math pathway, which I'll get into more detail next week. No one should be starting math just yet. And if you are thinking about it, let me know and we'll talk about it. But we talked about the pre-med. We looked at the worksheets. I'll send you all of these links. This is all the stuff that we did. So this is great. Keep in mind, you're just taking 2 SE4 courses instead of just 1 right now. So you have 2 actual college classes and no seminar next semester. So you're going to be taking between 6 and 8 credits. You cannot schedule before 1 p.m. and Yale students, unfortunately, not before 2 p.m. the way your scheduling works, and there's no exceptions for that. So if you try to schedule a 12 p.m. class, we get a report from SE4 and we'll drop that. So don't try to get away with it. We will see it. And all that's going to do is just put you behind getting yourself a right, correct, good schedule that works for you. You don't have to enter this in the chat. I'm going to upload I'm going to post the assignment for next week. What I want you to do is complete this thing. I want you to have at least what 2 classes you're going to take for the winter and a loose plan for the rest. Okay. So you can literally, I'll send you this example, but hopefully you're not going to just like copy. Where did it go? So it can be very vague that like in the next fall, I'm going to take humanities, maybe 1 specific class and 1 of those additional courses. So it can be vague, it can be specific, whatever works for you. But at the very least, you need to have your winter classes there. And then the other part of your homework is that you're going to actually register on Monday when it opens and take a screenshot of your completed registration. So when you get to this, basically hit print, take a screenshot of this, and you're going to upload it, and upload a picture of your program of study, and then that's it. Okay. So that is due the following Monday, not Halloween, but the following Monday. I think it was like November 7th, probably. Yeah. So that is that. I don't know if anybody's even still with me. Yes, you are. Thank you. I'm so sorry that this has taken so long, but that is all. So please let me know if you have questions. And